Hey people of the good ship deck, the next project begins, and the story starts here. We've got an old raised garden, gotta go and zha-zha the dump truck over there. And we've got a backyard being recreated here. To get the deck boards up, the first thing I did was grab the old slim patio and get after it. I unscrewed a whole bunch. As is typical, some are rotten, some are stripped, some are buried so deep I can't get them. So I'm not getting all the screws anyway. Then I realized they only use 2-inch screws for 1-inch boards. So I thought, these aren't in by very much. So, try this one. Look how far down I am. I went back to ye old faithful Nestor bars. The fetch is awesome. The wide stance is stable. And the leverage is excellent. So on this deck, the takeaway is a hybrid system of unscrew and leverage. See, like this one. Just need to pop a few to get it started. You see how easy that is? A couple screws and a little leverage, and up it comes. Next up on the literal hit parade, we're going to get these sleepers. They are Tapconned into the slab, and I think they're going to give me a little trouble. So job one on this patio deck of uniqueness is to get, it's not really a ledger board, but we'll call it that, to get the ledger board level. So the door is level. I'm able to integrate my ledger, which is in a ledger, to the door. But you can hear that right there, that's aluminium. And I want to isolate that metallic chemistry set from the chemistry set in the lumber. So I'm just taking a little bit of zip tape here from Huber Systems and throwing it in as a physical blockade between the threshold and the wood. I'll press that on so it's nice and stuck. In related I Love Awesome Tools news, this hammer, pop-up tool review. Originally, this was a Douglas hammer. I think Vaughn, from whom I got this one, bought the patent or whatever. But originally a Douglas, and invented by a framer. Talked to him a long time ago. Anyway, one of the things he designed into this tool is a chisel rip claw with a very shallow fetch. There is a little bit of a curve, but not much. One of the reasons I really enjoy using this hammer is for stuff like this. I don't dare move the level. But I've had to stick a whole bunch of shim-sham McFlim-flams in here, and I'm able to, now I've already shimmed it up, I'm making this look easy, but I'm able to tuck that in there, crank her a little bit sideways, and manipulate these shims. I'm not saying you're going to run into this situation every day, but I run into a situation like this situation all the time, and this rating, bullshooch. By the way, this is splitting the line level. Woo! Next step, to dig the holes. tip, screws aren't just for fastening. I use them punctured through some caution tape to mark the actual hole locations. So I thought I'd get a couple pieces in here so you can kind of see how this universe is developing. I'm going to frame this side first. The inspector wants it mechanically anchored to El Slabola, so I'll do that after I get the joisty McWoisties in. But before I can put those joists in, I got to put in this. This header, which I'll also do mechanical bearing right onto the slab back here where you can't see it. Good video, Mark. The joists for part 2 of this deck will bear on this. So what I've done is I've set up my beam, and I've got number 10 by 2.5 spats HCRX in here. And I'll fasten this header together via, where are you, camera? The DCA 6 guidelines for fastening, which is up, down, on a line 2 inches in from each edge. So there you have it. Header now, joist later. Heady stuff. So this is a little bit of a Bill and Ted sort of situation. What's happening is the joistices that need to travel over the patio need to be ripped down from the predicted 2 by 10 thickness to about 8 inches. The slab is just like the surface of a lake on a windy day. It's a wreck. So I got to trim them all. So rather than trimming them all, like to customize them to this ripply surface, I'm just going to trim them so they travel all the way across. That turns out to be 8 inches. Well, this is a 9.5 inch thick 2 by 10. And it's 16 feet long, and the moisture content is somewhere around 1,000,000%. So, in order to solve that problem, I have to enlist a couple of other carpentry tricks. One of them taught to me by the guy who also taught me the couple of knots called trucker's hitch, bowline hitch, half hitch, that have served me for 30-something years in this business. The other thing he taught me about is leverage. Now, I can lift these boards, but oh God, they're heavy. What I'm going to do instead, and pros, you probably all know this to a certain degree, but DIYers, tuck this in your quiver of skills. Leverage. This board is much one finger lighter with a fulcrum and leverage. So I can pick that up. I'm not going to risk my back. I'm not going to work too hard. But I also need to cut through it, and these cobalt sawhorses of awesomeness are metal. So I can't cut through those. So now I got to get this from here to here. So instead of, which is easy, I can also just fingertip it around. Next thing. Oh, I'm not done yet. This is a long scene. So the next thing is I can measure, mark, snap, and follow a line on this board, or I know it's 8 inches. It just so happens to work out that if I hold the edge of the saw plate to the edge of the board, I don't have to snap any lines. I don't have to measure anything, and the board will fit. To it. Do the old fingertip trick. Now be careful, but I'll show you this when I come closer into the scene. What I can do is I can hold my fingertip on the edge of the blade plate, and I really should shoot some B-roll for this, and the edge of the board, and use it as a saw guide. You got to be careful of splinters in the oh no moment, because you are near a spinning blade. The likelihood that you jump into it is low, but it's a spinning blade. Be careful. There you have it. Oops, wrong one. Next up, and by up I mean down, in the deck shop, is setting these joists. Now, I gotta make this kind of a quick scene because the inspector could come around the corner any minute. However, this is what I'm doing. I've got my countersink of goodness on the extension bit holder here, the video about that on the YouTube. And I've got it in my Craftsman cordless drill, pop-up tool review, nothing wrong with this thing. Okay, but more to the task at hand. I've got this, I'm doing ye old job site pocket hole gig. I've got four per joist. Then I'm going to take a number 10 by 3-inch spatula, throw it on this little bit here. That's flush. Lock it all together. I'll do that on each end. I'll do it for each board. The last joist, I'll show you in a sec. That's going to hold the lateral blocking for the privacy screen. That's all coming up. Hey Spax, make one of these, but longer. A couple things about concrete. As we set up to put in a post protector house post, is I like to put a little water in the container first, and then pour the concrete in on top of it, and then just wait a few minutes and let it all sink in without me having to do this gymnastics approach. Apparently there's gravity now, I picked up a little sag in the front beam here. Not a problem. My buddy Mark at Nestor has shown me the overwhelming utility of his bar, and while I don't quite know how I'm going to screw the screws in down there, I got all the power I need right here. Somebody reach something for me. Here's how I did it. Same principle, different positioning. Screwed a block in there. Got my leverage here. Bring it up nice and tight to the string. And boom, boom, booyah. That's all she wrote. So sometimes people ask me, they say, Mark, because that's my name, they say, Mark, you're kind of spatso for Spaxo Puffs. And I tell them, yes, I am. And I'll tell you why. This is one of my big reasons why I use these screws on every job I do. I can use the same screw, same driver tip for this as I can for this, as I can for this. Oh, that's awesome. And they set almost every time, too. Same screw there, here, and hooby-dooby. Here's to Ubi. Spaxo for Spaxo Puffs. I am a lunatic. In this scene, I set deck screws in the dark. Almost. Feeling a little lightheaded. I have an idea. the real takeaway for this scene in the darkness is this. Basically, I set my screws with the cordless, and it's fine when the battery's full chooch, but the minute the charge goes down, there's a reaction torque in here, and it's working pretty darn hard. It's a great impact driver, I love it, but for bulk screwing like this, I plug in. Low reaction torque, high speed, no battery changing. It's a game changer, if you will. See? Time saver tip. First, use post protectors. That will save you hours and hundreds of dollars. One, but two, if you're using post protectors, they require weep holes at the bottom. So when the water or snow melt rains down into here, you just sink out the bottom, the post is fine. However, one of my superpowers is forgetting to do it while detailing the post. So, what I'm going to do instead is pre-drill all my holes. How about that? So, post protector comes with its own galvied up lag screws, and to make the connection between the post protector and the post, some neoprene washers with a steel jacket on there, galvanized. Now, post protector does provide these screws, but I provide them to the trash can. The reason is, I love you, Ken, I do. But to stay in the same screw family and not sacrifice any quality, I swap into SPAC screws. And obviously, if you've watched anything I've ever said, I'm a big fan of these. And there's nothing wrong with the post protector screws, but this saves me a step. And steps saved are dollars earned. Quality maintained, all that good stuff. Two, I don't have to think. The older I get, the more thinking is a challenge. Ow, my head. Making the patented, asterisk, not patented, Clement built-up posts of awesomeness. 2x6, 2x4, and on top of this 2x4, I'll put another 2x6. But I wanted to take you through a little bit of the process while I do this. So, this is obviously a 3-inch dimension, so we'll take a 2.5-inch screw and just pop them in about every 16 or so. I've already done half of this. So this is all this needs here. This reveal between the 2x6 and the 2x4 is 1 inch. So all I had to do when I assembled that is just check it, get a couple tacks in there, nail it off. Next, this is where it gets a little bit of mental gymnastics, is we have to pay attention to bark and stuff here. Knots, mill marks, the guys at the lumberyard who gouged it to death with the forklift, etc. So we want our blemishes down, because it's going to be pocketed inside the deck, and hidden. I also want to put this face, which will show fasteners, to the exterior of the deck. I'll show you that later. And to get this side laid out, it's just a function of boom, boom, and then I bump up to 3s and pop this together like so. One thing to remember is you're not fastening the edges of the 2x6, you're fastening into the 2x4. So basically I've missed it before and had screws running through the channel here. So I just truncate them a little bit, line them up, this is my bottom, then every 16 or so, top left, bottom right, baby. I usually do each end, the center. I don't know if this is the best way to do this, but it's the way I'm doing this. And this little chooches, I'll tell you that right now. Go Ryobi. In this episode of Rain Day Work Anyway, I'm putting together the box step for the wrap step that'll go around almost the entire deck. 16 inches on center this way, 14 and a half this way. All of it will be fastened and locked to the deck frame. 1, 2, skip a few, 1, 2, skip a few. There's a little helix action going on in here, or more informally, a little wanger banger going on in both of these boards. Nothing a little clamp can't solve. Now I've got my little joists flushed up to my little bands. 2 number 10 by 3. So our wraparound box step is coming together, and I wanted to pause here and give you a sneak peek inside our little trench that we've dug to get below the surface of grade. And while my concrete use has gone down as a deck builder with the use of post protector, my use of crushed stone has skyrocketed. And I've got my quickcrete right here, and what I use it for is a gravel base. Think about a railroad bed. Same idea. I use undisturbed soil, crushed stone, and a landscape fabric to isolate, just like post protector does, isolate the crushed stone from silt and stuff getting in there, and it makes a fantastic base for patio decks, or in this case, a wraparound stair. So I'll do this, then I'll frame up a chicken ladder and put it all together. That's coming up. Oh, I forgot! Darn it! My new favorite way to open bags of stuff. Instead of cutting the end and doing a pour and dump, cut the center, which I did on the other side, and just lift the edges of the bag. Done deal. Alright, staying with the railroad bed theme, we've got our fabric isolating our gravel bed from the silt and stuff in the soil. We've got 2 wide pieces of wood, decking in this case, that operates essentially as the railroad ties. And the track itself, that's this chicken ladder right here. And it's called a chicken ladder because it looks like a ladder a chicken can run on. It's a framer's term. At any rate, I've got it laid out and on the mark here. I'm going to connect it down there. We'll get it all decked, and we're going to start to put this whole thing together, and I'm very excited for that. Woo! Very excited I could just say all those words. All right, a couple number 10 by 3 down here. Let's make sure we're flush. That is so on the money, it's on the money. Woo! I'll put 2 in each bay, wrap the corner with the next chicken ladder, then it's deck day done. That makes no sense. It's deck day, decking. Little quickie tippy on framing these chicken ladders. Got my blocks cut already, and I've laid out 16 centers. Boom, 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 boom. But if you don't frame a lot, it's easy to get these pieces transposed. Right for left, up for down, backwards, whatever. So what I do when I lay them out together the last mark I make is an arrow pointing to what the top is, because in order to keep your layout marks parallel with each other, or in line, that goes up that way, that goes up this way. Now I know these lines and X's are where they're supposed to be in relation to each other. So I'm cross-hatching the steps. This butts into this butts into this, and so on, all the way out to the edge. I like this little look here, this little staggered stair step. Anyway, the point is, I have to install a lot of blocking in here, and I don't want there to be a million screws through the riser of our stair here. So I chuck up my countersink, which I use all the time. Just run a couple pilot holes through this blocking and secure with screws. Like this. Blocked. Quick look at my table saw setup. Got my homemade bench, skill saw table saw of course, and the bench height plus the saw height equals a ½ inch higher than the Omni table. So when I table saw, like this, I have super awesome outfeed support for the work, and the dangerous gymnastics of table saws and long boards is behind me. So I'm starting to land on a preferred method of setting and installing my screws, and it kind of goes something like this. I preset the field screws for the most part with the cordless, unless I have to do something to the board like ye old chisel trick. Then, once I get 3 or 4 boards in, I go corded. This one's going to need a little chisel trick. We'll do that, bevel towards the wood. Just a little bit. And I like to get 3 screws when I do the chisel trick. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, it's time to set all these tall boys. Like this. Not sure where this lands in the world of deck building tips, but I've got a shorty to start off this course. And I need to measure joist to joist to get the length of my next piece. You know what's faster and more efficient than dropping your drops in the drop zone and cleaning up a pile at the end of the day? This is. You got to put your saw down anyway. So after you make your cut, piece gets picked up in one move. Problem solved. Better, faster, safer for everybody concerned. Here's the beginning of privacy screen panel number 2. Got my 2x6 cut to slide down that center slot, or center channel, and I've got 3.5 inch standoffs cut from deck boards so that when leaves and stuff blow on the deck, we can blow them right out of here. I also want to point out that I'm picking the good sides and the good edges so that if there are blemishes, bark, forklift marks, whatever, those go to the outside and down. Then, I take a number 10x3 and just at a slight angle towards the interior side of the board and countersink the screw just a bit. Let me get this other one. Dead battery. That's unjust. Pause. Resume. And I'll get one in on the other side, like this. Now, it's tempting to cut this the exact dimension so you can make the little gap disappear, the exact width, but I've cut it about 1/8 short, and yeah, there's a shadow line in there, but it's super buried, and it makes slotting it down this channel much, much easier. A couple more screws, we'll bring her up to the top. Quick layout detail for when you're making your privacy screen of awesomeness is where to measure from. The posts are plumb, put a level on them, all that's great, but it doesn't mean it's perfect. The distance you want the posts to be apart is measured at the bottom. That way, if say your level's off or something happened or somebody bumped into it and this post moved, you see the gap opening up, you know why. And you can either pull them together or push them apart or whatever you need to do. The point is, take your primary control point measurement. And this one is 36 5/16. At the bottom, rinse, repeat. Here's another tip for installation if I can do this one. It is swollen. When I've done these before, I've sometimes had to back off on my connecting screw here to account for the differing moisture levels in this lumber. Other thing, from here to here on a square or a rectangle is longer than from here to here. So if you're inclined to go like this and they don't go, might be because there's no room for them to travel. The alternative, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this to work, the alternative, bend to my will. That's all we needed. Just a little pressure release. Ho, ho, ho. There you go. I'm more of a engage safety squint kind of operator when it comes to the tools. I don't like to be cavalier with the safety of my eyes, but these things are a double-edged sword, as we all know. Long story short, lots of chooch coming out of here from the blade, so I goggled up, and I don't want my fingers anywhere near a fully extended blade. 16 degrees, so I made myself a little sled. Now we'll make us something called this. And what you have right there is a lovely post cap. Then I set them with 4 number 8 by 2s. We're getting close. I wanted to share with you how I transitioned from the run of decking to the final deck board and get the overhang that I want. I like 1.5 inch overhang. And in order to get that here, what I do is I run my deck boards out until I get close to the last remaining deck board. Then I cut a transition strip like this. I rip that on the table saw, then I knock a bull nose off the cut edge with the router, then I put it in here, and now I can choose my overhang, make sure everything works. If something got crooked, the overhang's a good way to hide it. So what I've got to do, I can already tell. 2. So I got to remove 1.5 inches from my last run of decking, and I think it's clean up, and that's it. Oh boy! Remember when I said a minute ago that I was almost done, that I could taste the end of this project? 2 seconds later, I looked at this, and I'm like, I'm not almost done, but I am. It's close, and I love this part. So, if you've watched any of my other deck building videos, you'll have seen me do this a number of different times, so I won't bore you with this. I just like to share it. 1, 2... Snap a few. 0 chalk came out. This time with 100% more chalk. After I reload the chalk reel, one thing I like to do is pull it out a little bit. Knock it 3 times for good luck. Get it back in there, get it nice and chalked up. All right, that might have done it. Let's try that again. If we're not careful, this is going to start looking like a deck. Clean up, clean up, good old golden clean up. That, my friends of the Good Ship Deck Shop, that's all she wrote.